And thank you, Chicago Food Policy Action Council. Really appreciate your partnership and your collaboration with the overall summit and the session. So thank you again for joining us today. We're excited to share more about the progress we have made with implementing the Good Food Purchasing Program in Cook County since the resolution was approved in 2018. We're excited to also share with you where we're headed, how we're planning to leverage some additional funding we've procured or secured to really accelerate GFPP within Cook County. So with that, you can turn to the next slide. Thank you, Marlie. So some of what we'll cover today is provide you an update regarding what is Cook County's Good Food Purchasing Program and what progress have we made over the last several years. We'll also spotlight how we're planning to leverage funding, local funding, to accelerate GFPP implementation across county institutions. And we're also looking to solicit feedback from you on how we can leverage these additional dollars to invest in emerging county farms and food businesses. So again, we'll provide some updates. We'll paint the picture of what we're planning, and then we look forward to having a discussion with you on how best we can leverage some dollars that we've procured or secured to really invest in our communities and our local producers. Great. So as far as who's joining me today to provide this overview, I'm joined by my colleague, Keith Winn, with the Cook County Department of Public Health, as well as Marlie Wilson from the Chicago Food Policy Action Council. Keith, myself, and Marlie all work collectively together to lead implementation of good food purchasing across county departments and agencies. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Marlie to provide an overview of what the good food purchasing policy is and what we've been working towards implementing over the last several years. Great, Marlie.
Thank you, Amy. So the Cook County Good Food Purchasing Program resolution was approved in May of 2018, and it recognizes the impact of an estimated $15.3 million that's spent by Cook County's departments and agencies every year on food. And it recognizes the impact of that amount of money on investing in a more equitable and sustainable food system. The resolution language established a Cook County Good Food Task Force and mapped out the process for policy implementation with partners at the Center for Good Food Purchasing and us here at the Chicago Food Policy Action Council. The effort was led in 2018 by Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia, who at the time was a Cook County commissioner and who chaired the Commission on Social Innovation, where the resolution was initially drafted. And since 2018, the Cook County Department of Public Health and Chicago Food Policy Action Council have been working with the county's procuring departments, food procuring departments, to implement the Good Food Purchasing Program. So the Cook County government sees its implementation of the Good Food Purchasing Program as a tool for many different goals. First and foremost, to build community-based economic development that helps to close the racial wealth gap, and really build ownership and opportunities for ownership and community economic development in low to moderate income communities across suburban Cook County. The strategy of the Good Food Purchasing Program also advances the county's goals to be more transparent and accountable to the public, in creating more public availability of information around what Cook County government's departments and agencies are buying. And the county hopes that their good food purchasing policy overall can build equity in making good food a right for all residents, not just a privilege. So the Good Food Purchasing Program focuses overarching has a focus on racial equity, accountability, and transparency, and really focuses on shifting food spend towards these 5 values: nutrition, culturally relevant nutrition, environmental sustainability, so ensuring that the foods that are sourced are supporting our ecosystems and reducing our carbon and water footprint. A valued workforce, so really incentivizing departments and agencies to work with companies that treat their employees fairly, pay them a living wage, and provide safe working conditions. Local economies, so investing in an equitable local food system that really supports small and mid-sized food producers across especially Cook County and the region beyond. And animal welfare, so ensuring that we're serving less meat and better meat when we do serve meat, and really caring for animals that are in the food production process. So the way in which the Good Food Purchasing Program is actually implemented starts with understanding what Cook County's agencies are currently buying when they purchase food. And so we go through what we call a baseline assessment process with each meal program to understand every food item that was purchased and where that food item came from, how much was bought, as much data as we possibly can collect from the vendors, the suppliers that are providing the county's meal programs with food, so that we can understand what percentage of that food is healthy, fair, local, humane, and sustainable. And we work with our partners at the Center for Good Food Purchasing at the national level to support that assessment process. They have a team of analysts and have helped to set standards for those 5 value categories to assess the foods that have been purchased. And with that, we can then identify what are realistic and actionable goals to set for increasing the amount of food that qualifies as local, sustainable, healthy, fair, and humane. And really start to think about, how we operationalize that. And one of the major pieces of operationalizing change with the Good Food Purchasing Program is by shifting the language that is embedded in contracts with food service management companies and with food suppliers, distributors that provide food to the county's institutions. And so that, that takes often these contracts are for several years. And so, when a contract is up for expiration, it's a really big opportunity to align the new language in the next contract to support the Good Food Purchasing Program's goals. And that will help shift purchases over time towards the value categories that we care about. And so it's really critical that we don't just understand what the county's departments and agencies are buying one time. It's important that we track that change, that progress over time, and continue to collect food purchasing data and run progress assessments to understand how the spend of food dollars is changing towards more local, more sustainable, healthy, fair, humane items, and really understand, why are we not making change, or, what's inhibiting progress, what's accelerating progress, and just recognizing that this is not work that can necessarily happen overnight. There's, a lot of factors that contribute to the county being able to shift their food spend. So really identifying, what's working and celebrating that, and understanding, where those barriers are to change so that we can all collectively work on solutions to those barriers. And so I should also just mention that the county has 3 major food procuring institutions that it's working with. So Cook County Jail, Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center, and Cook County Health, so that's Stroger and Provident Hospitals, are the 3 major Cook County institutions that are going through this Good Food Purchasing Program process actively at the moment. So that's what's happening in Cook County, but we are not alone in Cook County. This is a national movement there's over 63 institutions that are enrolled in the Good Food Purchasing Program process. And those institutions are spread out all across the country in 24 cities. And there's more and more institutions and jurisdictions that are exploring the Good Food Purchasing Program every year. And again, we have support from the Center for Good Food Purchasing, our national partners that help us with analyzing what institutions are buying. But we also collaborate very closely with the Food Chain Workers Alliance and Heal Food Alliance on connecting with coalitions all across the country that are actively working with institutions on this purchasing change. And really trying to, again, troubleshoot, how do we address all of the different barriers to shifting food spend together. So right now, this is, really the collective impact, potential collective impact of this policy being adopted all across the country is really significant. We're dealing with over $1 billion in food that's purchased annually, that's currently enrolled in the program. So, collectively, we have the power to potentially shift what the entire food system looks like if we are really intentional about how that $1 billion is being spent all across the country. Cook County is also not alone in adopting the Good Food Purchasing Program here in the area. We're really fortunate that the city of Chicago also has adopted the Good Food Purchasing Policy in 2017. So we have both the city and the county collaborating on the Good Food Purchasing Policy implementation with support from the Chicago Food Policy Action Council and many other partners. And I just wanted to flag that if folks who are listening in are interested in learning about the city of Chicago's Good Food Purchasing Policy implementation, there's a session tomorrow. The 1 year later updates from the Food Equity Council session that's happening tomorrow online at 2 p.m. where the city representatives will be talking about their progress. So just wanted to share that there's another session to learn more about what they're doing tomorrow. And we will also be hosting a session in person on Friday at 11 o'clock. Focused on, it's called the Chicagoland Food Mobilization Project, that will be talking about some of the research that's proposed for the next year or so to really dig into some of the major challenges that we've identified as a community to having community food access sites like the county's institutions really meaningfully shifting their food spend towards, equity and sustainability and community health. So I highly hope that you can join those other sessions and continue this dialogue. But, collectively, we've been since 2019 collaborating together under the umbrella initiative of the Metro Chicago Good Food Purchasing Initiative that really focuses on how we leverage the Good Food Purchasing Policy adoption here in the city of Chicago and Cook County government for building a more equitable supply chain, building more opportunities, especially for farms and food businesses that are owned and operated by Black, Indigenous, Latinx people of color, and supporting food chain workers and ensuring that they understand what the policy is and how it might support them in advocating for workplace safety and better wages. And then working on menu transformation as a collective community and understanding how what's served on the menu can better support and celebrate all of the rich cultural traditions that are present all across our community. So the Metro Chicago Good Food Purchasing Initiative, as I mentioned, that's been in development and evolving over especially the last 4 years. And something else that we're working on actively right now is building what we're calling a Metro Chicago Good Food Purchasing Initiative ecosystem that has a clear leadership structure and centers decision-making by those that are most impacted by this work and have been traditionally excluded from decision-making over what the food system looks like. And so that's an ongoing conversation that we're engaged in right now and hoping to really build out clearer, more transparent and accountable decision-making around the resources and the priorities for all of this work. I'm going to pass it over to Keith Winn to share now a little bit about what's going on with Cook County's GFPP implementation.
Thank you, Marlie. Thank you. Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Keith Winn. I'm a public health educator with the Cook County Department of Public Health Chronic Disease Unit. And so today, I'm going to share with you some of our good food purchasing program initiatives that have occurred over the past couple of years. I will specifically highlight our work with the Cook County Good Food Task Force and with 3 Cook County governmental departments. Okay, next slide, Marlie. So first I will highlight our work with the Cook County Good Food Task Force. The task force was established in 2018. And as you can see on the slide, task force members include representation from various Cook County governments, community-based organizations, as well as several local leaders operating currently within the Cook County food system. The task force exists to provide members with strategic direction regarding GFPP, has an opportunity for members and partners to discuss challenges. We offer opportunities to share solutions, celebrate successes, and most importantly, identify collective opportunities to advance GFPP throughout the Cook County region. Okay. Next slide, Margie. So as mentioned, over the past couple of years, CCDPH and CFPAC have worked with 3 governmental departments that have already been mentioned: Cook County Health, the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center, and the Cook County Sheriff's Police Department. We've been working with them for 1, to collect annual food purchasing data, and 2, to offer assistance with completing their GFPP baseline assessments. The Juvenile Temporary Detention Center completed their assessment in 2020. This was followed by the Cook County Sheriff's Police Department in 2021. And just recently, Cook County Health, completed their baseline assessment in 2022. In addition, we have worked with these departments to develop good food action plans that include goal-setting benchmarks for the purposes for identifying changes in foods that have been purchased and are currently being served within each of these facilities. Lastly, we have worked with these departments along with the Cook County Office of the Chief Procurement Office to integrate GFPP language into future Cook County food-related contracts and solicitations. Next slide, Marlie. So this next slide is a case study or more highlighting our work specifically with the JTC or the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. So the center has been one Cook County entity that has made a lot of progress with GFPP over the past 4 years. The accomplishments include successfully collecting the food purchase data in 2019, as we mentioned, and as we already mentioned, they submitted that data in 2020. The importance of this data will allow us to better assess with understanding how their purchases align with the national good food standards. They have also developed their good food action plan. So this plan provides information on how to start purchasing more local, healthy, fair, humane, and sustainable foods. They are constantly reviewing their menus and strategizing on ways to reduce red meat consumption, integrating more whole grains onto their menu, and to remove sugary snacks. They have also developed their own community garden and integrated food from the garden onto their menu. So this is something that is great because it gives the residents at the center experience with growing, cultivating, and harvesting healthy foods, along with providing additional skills when a resident departs the center. And the last change they've done is, lastly, they have implemented activities that have been focused on reviewing their food-related solicitation language, again, in preparation for future contracts. Next slide, Marlie. So this next slide, you'll see highlights a shift, or what's to say, a movement in the JTC food contracts. So in one column, you will see the active contracts, and these active contracts are the contracts that have already been awarded. So you see their listings for the meat contract, the frozen food contract, the poultry, and those for the milk, which has just recently been approved. The next column highlights those are in process, and these are food or food-related items that have gone off a bid but are waiting for final approval and processing. So they're still waiting, as you see, for their juice contract, their egg contract, and then of course their dairy contract as well. So we plan to, and we anticipate working with the JTC staff to conduct a GFPP progress assessment next year to understand how these changes have impact or affect their purchasing as well. Next slide, Marlie. And of course, there cannot be success without any challenges. So some of the challenges that the JTC has experienced is, of course, time. Time to prepare contracts, to collect data, to prepare bids, to go out for outreach and for bidding. So that's all time consuming, very great work, but it's also time consuming along with the other duties that they have to do from day to day at the temporary detention center. Also, there's a lack of vendors that are responding to bids. So sometimes local vendors may not know that a bid has gone out and has been released as well. So I'm gonna skip down to the bottom. Actually working on new progress assessments can be challenging with working with vendors. So sometimes vendors may be reluctant to share information about the products or the food for the data purposes. And then last, but probably most importantly, is the cost of the organic and sustainable products, food products. And so we've all have been impacted by the increased cost of foods. But when it comes to purchasing the more healthier foods, we know that that's much more of a sustainable cost. So it's something that from year to year, the GTC always looks at and see how that may impact their future budget as well. So, okay, so next slide. So next I will pass it to my director, Amy, who will discuss more about our three-year GFP implementation plan and some ways that we may be able to address future challenges.
Thank you so much, Keith, and thank you, Marlie, for setting the stage, providing an overview of what good food purchasing policy and the program implementation is for Cook County, and then for Keith highlighting all of the amazing work of our partners at the county departments and agencies like the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. They've served as leaders and have been internal advocates for this work, and so we cannot do this work without those champions that are really on a day-to-day basis, finding the opportunities to make these shifts, identify the opportunities to serve better, healthier food to those they serve across suburban Cook County. So what we're really excited to highlight now is building on this incredible work that has been underway since 2018, where we're headed and what the plan is to get there. The nice thing is we have some new funding and resources that we were able to secure that will help accelerate the GFPP implementation for Cook County and help us to work towards overcoming the challenges, much like the challenges that Keith highlighted that the agency department that's implementing has experienced. So we're looking forward to highlighting some of those opportunities with you now. So next slide, please. So Cook County Department of Public Health was able to leverage and secure American Rescue Plan Act funds to support Cook County's GFPP implementation. So over the next 3 to 5 years, our plan was to invest these dollars to increase staff capacity to support Good Food Action Plan implementation at county departments and agencies. This will also allow us to further support assessments to track progress being made towards GFPP goals of the county's meal programs. We're looking to leverage these dollars also to support deeper research into the county's procurement code to understand where it complements or inhibits GFPP implementation. Through this research, we look to identify pilot opportunities to shift policies and processes to better align with GFPP and shift towards a more values-based procurement system. And finally, we're looking to fund or leverage these funds to contribute to the community fund to support and create new opportunities for farmers and local food businesses to build resiliency across Cook County and to support stipends for meal program recipients, food chain workers, and local Black, Latinx, Indigenous, and other people of color food producers to attend meetings, workshops, and trainings, and to participate actively in evaluation and feedback sessions related to GFPP. So moving on, I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper to give you a sense of what we're planning that is already underway. Related to good food purchasing program implementation, as Keith highlighted, we're looking to work with county departments and agencies to go beyond their baseline assessment. Since baseline, we've been working with them to make shifts in purchasing to put their action plan into action. These are incremental changes, but it's an opportunity, much like JTDC, making shifts in the Juvenile Temporary Detention Program solicitations. We want to understand the impact that those shifts have had. So we need to conduct progress assessments to monitor our progress with making these shifts towards an equitable, healthy, fair, local, humane, and sustainable food system while creating better food, good food access for all. So we're going to continue with these assessments. We're also looking to leverage dollars that we have to conduct scratch cooking audits of Cook County food environments at Cook County Health, Juvenile Temporary Detention, and Cook County Jail to identify and purchase needed kitchen equipment that will really allow these departments to promote and serve more better and healthier and whole food and conduct whole food preparation on site where possible. In addition to conducting the audit and purchasing the equipment that was needed or identified, we're looking to offer scratch cooking training for food service staff at these sites. So again, we're equipping them with the skills, the capabilities to prepare healthy whole foods and serve healthy whole foods to those they serve at the sites. And then from there, we're going to conduct food waste audits and develop food waste recovery plans for these county sites at Cook County Health, Juvenile Temporary Detention, and Cook County Jail. As we shift to procurement policy, as we mentioned, it's an opportunity for us to take a deeper dive research to explore ways in which we can maybe make shifts in the procurement code. We need to first understand how the procurement code may facilitate or inhibit GFPP implementation and explore ways to make these shifts based on national best practices, opportunities that we look to pilot in the near future. From there, we're going to continue to integrate GFPP language and expectations in the county's food solicitations and contracts. And we're looking to also find ways to increase transparency of the county's food purchases. And then when we're looking to the supply chain, we're looking to launch, as we've highlighted, the Community Investment Fund alongside the Chicago Food Policy Action Council. We're looking to direct $450,000 over the next 3 years to local BIPOC farms, producers, and food businesses that serve suburban Cook County. We're looking to expand GFPP adoption and implementation across anchor institutions and county meal providers like suburban Cook County schools, hospitals, and higher ed institutions, so that we're supporting them with their own GFPP implementation. And again, seeing a larger demand for better food, quality food, equitable food across our region. And then we're looking to conduct trainings for suburban Cook County food chain workers about GFPP and its potential impact on workers' rights and workplace safety. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Marlie Wilson, who's going to spotlight a recent opportunity, a funding pilot that we conducted, leveraging some funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So Marlie, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Thanks, Amy. We just wanted to share a little bit about some of the work that's been underway this last year in terms of leveraging funds from that have become available, especially with the pandemic, to really invest in community-driven food mobilization efforts across suburban Cook County and connect them to, connect social enterprises that are producing healthy, locally sourced meals to connect them to emergency food access sites, and also build their capacity to support supplying food potentially to Cook County institutions in the future. So the Suburban Cook County Microgrant, as we have affectionately called the pilot this last year, again, focused on really how do we help connect local food producers and meal preparers to supply healthy, locally sourced meals to especially communities in suburban Cook County that have been disproportionately impacted by the effects of COVID-19. So we were able to put out a request for proposals last year for microgrants of up to $25,000 to small to mid-sized food businesses, food producers, food cooperatives, and other kind of social enterprises that proposed producing or preparing meals for emergency meal access, emergency meal distribution across priority communities in suburban Cook County. And we're currently in the project period. It started in August of 2022, and we are hoping it will stretch to October of 2023. We're still waiting on official word of an extension with that process. There were 6 awards made, 4 for $25,000 and 2 actually for $12,500, so we could stretch the funding across more projects. So the funding has gone to the Health Policy Institute and Mother Carr's Farm, which they're connected to, Food Hero, L3C, Grace United Church of Christ, which is also connected to It Takes a Village Farm. They'll also be presenting, I know, as a part of the summit, so check out their session as well. Centro de Trabajadores Unidos, the Street Vendors Association of Chicago, and a project called Roots, Eggs, and Greens as well. So it's really exciting. This group of enterprises and projects includes food producers, nonprofit models, caterers, worker-owned cooperatives, and kind of really innovative food pantry collaborations with local farms. And all of them proposed serving suburban Cook County communities. Most are grounded in suburban Cook County, and 2 of them are City of Chicago-based entities that are serving suburban Cook County with this project funding. So we've been working, and my colleague Meg Boucher, an awesome consultant that we've been working with, has been collaborating with all of the microgrant awardees over since August on launching their projects and leveraging this funding to support emergency meal access, food access sites across suburban Cook County. Just through December, they'd already served over 10,000 meals to 6 priority communities in Cicero, South Holland, Linwood, Sauk Village, Blue Island, and Chicago Heights. And approximately 1,615 individuals have also received nutrition education connected to those meals being served. And we're also really excited about the microgrant awardees leveraging the funds to continue to really invest in their operations. So 4 of the 6 have hired a new employee since the funding started. 3 awardees have been developing or refining their business plans, and all 6 have either hosted or attended a training in food production or processing or distribution. So we've been working with 3 business support organizations on kind of that last piece of really building their capacity and supporting them with, really being able to grow and evolve and change their businesses, to meet their mission and goals. So they've been attending one-on-one meetings with the Cook County Local Food and Farms Extension team, and they've been meeting with the Southland Development Authority and Real Foods Collective. So our 3 kind of business support organizations. And then they're all kind of with those business support organizations working on fundraising and, accounting, marketing, Veggie RX management, project management, really figuring out models to also work with kind of healthcare institutions on providing healthy prescription packages. So we're excited that work will continue over the next few months. I think I just want to mention that, one challenge is, that this funding is from the the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and it can't be used for everything. It can be really directed towards staff time and can't be used to purchase food itself. And we've identified that as just one of the challenges for some of the microgrant awardees who don't have complementary funding coming from other streams, and trying to figure out, really just how they leverage this funding for it to really feed community in all the ways that they need to leverage the funding for. So, that's definitely something that we've been thinking a lot about as we turn to expanding this pilot that we've really been through in the last year to a larger Good Food Purchasing Initiative Community Investment Fund that we are hoping to launch this year in 2023. So the pilot work that the 6 microgrant awardees have been working on this last year is really going to help ground that fund's development. Where the Chicago Food Policy Action Council is currently hiring a community investment fund manager, and we're reviewing applications. Really excited to have somebody hired by the end of February, early March, and be launching a request for proposals with the development of a steering committee to really drive this community investment fund forward, provide outreach support, and review the applications. So it's not just, this one fund manager that's doing it. It's really, it's a whole committee of folks that are involved in ensuring that the process is really equitable and transparent and accountable. And our hope is that the fund itself will open in July, mid-year this year, and that awards will be made by October of 2023, so that we can really be mobilizing more funding to invest in food producers and businesses all across the county. And the Community Investment Fund is really, it's going to be larger than the suburban Cook County pilot. So it will include funding from other sources so that we can open it up to, more farms and food businesses in both the city of Chicago and suburban Cook County and the surrounding region as well. The county's funding that's being invested in the fund is going to be directed towards suburban Cook County entities. But we're really excited about this opportunity to expand this work and really just build more funding for these, community-driven food mobilization projects. And really excited also about how that can continue to build the ability for more connections to be made with those projects that are building their capacity. And again, the county's institutions that are buying food and the city's institutions and other community anchor institutions across across Metro Chicago that want to be buying food that really reinvests in community. So I think I've been seeing chats coming through. One of the questions that I am seeing just immediately from Lenore is around how much funding is currently slated in the Community Investment Fund. We'll launch it with $150K this year. So really excited for that opportunity. We'll be able to, that funding is guaranteed for the next 3 years. So it won't just be a one-time release of funds. We'll pilot it, this year, and then continue to offer more funding in 2024 and 2025. And then I'm seeing there's a few other questions coming in. I don't know. It looks like Amy, you've addressed a couple of them. Will an RFP go out for scratch cooking instructors? Amy, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much, Tamika, for raising that. That's something we're still exploring right now with the procurement department, the way in which we can release this opportunity to community and solicit potential trainers. We're really excited to be able to offer that opportunity to the county departments and agencies, in addition to the audit and potential purchasing of needed kitchen equipment, so that we can see more whole food cooking preparation on site. So more information to come in the near future regarding the potential release of an RFP for scratch cooking training.
And then I just saw a follow-up question around whether the release of funds is divided between community partners or if that amount is designated for each community partner. The funds will be divided up. And so one of the tasks of the steering committee for the community fund will be determining, how many awards to make with the funding, and how large they should be, and figuring out kind of the criteria for determining those awards. So that's all still a work in progress. And I think if we do have time to talk a little bit more about what you all on the line think that process should look like, we'd love to have some time to talk about that. But we do want to, we'll take a couple of more questions. I think we have plenty of time for a few more Q&A before we jump into the discussion part.
Excuse me, Marlie, there was a question from Mabel, who had a question in regards to our slide regarding the challenges to JTC and the term we can't use local as specification.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So as best I can. So for it, in regards to putting together a solicitation for food products, when the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center goes out to bid, they provide a sheet of all of the, a spreadsheet of all of the products that they are planning to, that they would like to use in their meal program. And so that, for example, could look like tortillas, and they'll give the count of how many tortillas they'd like per package and how many packages per box. And they can give a lot of detail around the nutritional quality of those tortillas, and they can even suggest a brand for the tortillas, but they cannot say in the specification that they want a local tortilla. And that has to do, I believe, with the legality of limiting where that product can come from. So there's some issues with limiting the geography at the federal level, I believe. And so that is one of a goal of the procurement policy research that the county will be undergoing starting this year, is really determining where are there ways that we can creatively address that restriction and open up opportunities that are really directing the products to be purchased from local producers. So because even if the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center says, we want these tortillas to come from X brand that's, based in Cook County, the vendor, the distributor, can always substitute that for another brand. They aren't legally obligated to provide that brand. So we're still working on trying to figure out how we might implement something like geographic preference, for example. That's something that I know other school districts have used to evaluate bids on products that it takes geography into account legally. So I can post a little bit more information for links around what geographic preference is in the chat if folks are interested in learning more about that potential strategy. But yeah, we're still trying to figure out, how can we really direct more food spend towards, companies that are based here in Cook County and the region. And yes, I'm seeing the note that the word local is really tough because it does mean different things to different people, and local from one region to another is so different. And that's something we've weighed in on a lot with the Center for Good Food Purchasing, because they have their kind of definition that they use for what to determine what is local. And it's, food that's produced within a 250-mile radius for produce and 500-mile radius for meat and dairy items. But it has to be a kind of locally owned, it can't just be like based in the region, but owned by a multinational corporation. And then there's added incentive points in their scoring system for entities that are based within the county of the jurisdiction with the policy. And they're updating, actually, from a lot of feedback from folks across the country, like CIVPAC and other coalitions. They're adding explicit language in the local economies standard around a percentage of those products that need to be produced by BIPOC-owned farms and food businesses. There's so many good questions coming into the chat. Adam, I'm wondering if you've seen any good ones that you can highlight for us that we haven't answered yet.
Sure. I was going to ask, this would be more for Keith and Amy, about whether the Cook County Jail, Cook County Health, or the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center are working to produce more of their own food.
Yeah.
Whether it's through like hydroponics on site. I know you showed through the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center that they do have some on-site production as well. And are those foods able to be served on site?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as Keith highlighted, the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center initiated what they call their Karma Garden. And again, it's served, and supported by local residents and staff of juvenile temporary detention, with some support from outside organizations that have contributed funding resources. And they're using that space and that garden, that experience, as really a learning opportunity for the residents to experiment with growing food, producing food, tasting the food, and they're introducing the food. It's not on the menu because they're not producing it to the extent they need. The capabilities of producing it isn't, there for putting it on the menu for everyone to consume, but they are actively using it as a learning opportunity with the residents and even staff on site to explore, taste, and the experience of these locally grown or on-site grown foods. I think there is overall interest. There is a program with the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Again, they're in some cases, they have a specific program pilot where they are producing food products on site. And it's part of a specific job training opportunity as well, where they're producing the products, and then those products are being used in a specific way on site for, like I said, this job training opportunity. I think overall, this is something that we're looking to explore across the county, and particularly with these departments and agencies, on how we can leverage county land to produce or make it space that we can produce food on site. So again, this is an opportunity for exploration with us that we're looking to explore, and leveraging, GFPP as that opportunity to explore and kind of jumpstart these discussions with the departments and agencies. That was a great question. Thank you.
And then there's a question as well from Angelica, for whoever would like to take this one while we still have a couple minutes, regarding what it might look like for supporting small community partners and attempting to increase capacity to meet the needs of the program. So whether it's scalability or resources, you touched on that briefly, and I know it's a lot of the work that we do here at CIVPAC of like connecting the dots and helping these food producers connect with these institutions. if there's just anything additional to share.
Absolutely. So yeah, because I think it's, I think there's a couple of things I want to share in terms of we want to support as much as possible partners, social enterprises, producers, food businesses that really want to increase their capacity and possibly their scale to serve larger institutional markets. We also recognize that it's not just a one-way street, that the onus is on small food businesses and food producers to scale up. We also really want to acknowledge that there are ways in which the structure of procurement opportunities might need to change to meet producers where they're at. So just want to, make that clear that it's not just about all these producers having to change their practices in order to meet these larger volumes. It's about, really, how do we actually build out a structure for how community meal programs operate that can really work with local producers in a mutually beneficial way. So just framing that with that, and for, keeping that in mind, one of the biggest things that we've been doing the last a little over a year is hosting buyer supplier mixer events and starting to just build relationships between those who are serving community meals and those, and buying food for them, and those who are producing food and would like to connect their food to more community food access sites and possibly, institutions and cafeteria settings. But really just starting the conversation about, what does everyone need in order to build these relationships in a mutually beneficial way. So that's the ground floor, I think, is the relationship building. And then, of course, funding hopefully will help community partners identify what they need, with not just telling them what they should do with that funding, but really telling us what they need, whether it's food safety certifications or new infrastructure that will allow them, to meet those food safety certifications that many community meal programs have, especially, we've talked with a lot of our healthcare partners who want to support local farmers, but food safety is especially such a big issue in the hospital setting. So, just making sure that we're talking about these kind of issues, that barriers that would prevent a local institution from partnering with a local farm, and trying to figure out, can we invest support there. I think the other thing that we're really excited about is all of the collaborative and cooperative projects there are, between multiple farms and multiple producers and food businesses. And how can we support like food hubs or other cooperative models where people are working together. So looking at scale in a different way, instead of just building a giant farm, one mega farm, how can many small farms collaborate with each other? And how can this, support, help build those connections and infrastructure to do so? So that's, I think, just a little bit, and I don't want to take up too much more time, but I also see that Adam has dropped the chat for our guide for growers too, which we developed a little over a year ago. Dakari Howard, the Equitable Supply Chain Development Specialist at the Chicago Food Policy Action Council, has been really working to make sure that this resource is, supports growers and food businesses who really want to learn more about what the Good Food Purchasing Initiative is and how they can get involved. And we hope to continue to update that with more like case studies and storytelling about some of the amazing farms and food businesses that have been serving their communities and learning a lot in that process to share out with others that want to do it.
Well, thanks so much. I just wanted to thank our presenters and for